live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast for Tuesday, May 17th, here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players. And now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's really easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're going to pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed totals. So for example, could be the number of points in a basketball game tonight, or the number of rebounds, assists, three-pointers, steals, whatever it is that is being offered today. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you pick 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where I can join with my buddies contest and we can all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing. We could all see what the guy who won 3 days in a row in our group is playing. And then everybody can all play along together. It's insanely fun when everybody is out there rooting for the same things and sweating out the same games, trying to win some money. So stop what you're doing now and download the Sleeper app to play their new over-under game. Have fun with your friends and make some money. On the mobile phone, join into our listener group on Sleeper by going to sleeper.com/FTNBets. And Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, that's sleeper.com/FTNBets, and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for the details. We have made it to that point now where we are in to the championship round of the NBA with the Eastern and Western Conference Finals starting in the next couple days. Today, we have the first game of the Eastern Conference Final between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. These are the top 2 seeded teams in the East that came out. So technically everything went according to plan, even though at the start of the series, at the start of the playoffs period, these were actually the 3rd and 4th best priced teams in order to make it out of the East. The Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks were the 2 teams that had the lowest odds on them, followed by these 2 teams here. So if you've been holding on to a ticket, I think you were able to get Boston was something like plus 700, and I think Miami might have even been higher than that. They might have been plus 800 or plus 900 when this whole thing started. So if you're holding on to some of those tickets, definitely a good time to get in there and, hedge these things at the moment. Miami is slightly favored in the series, although it is expected to be very close. These 2 teams played 3 times during the year. Boston won 2 of those 3 games. Interesting. Most of the time you have teams that play each other 4 times during the year. I'm not exactly sure why they only played 3 times. I was trying to find that out this morning, but I couldn't find anything. But like I said, I could only find 3 games that they played. The first game that they played against each other, Boston won 95-78. So that was a 17-point victory by Boston. I think that game was in Miami. The next 2 games were in Boston. Boston won the second game, 122-92. So a 30-point blowout for Boston in the second game. And then Miami came back and won the third game, 98-106. So the 3 games that they played, 173, 214, 204 were the total in those 3 games. Boston won by 17 and 30 in their 2 victories. Miami won by 8 points in their victory. So none of these games were particularly close at the end here. They were all, pretty big wins. With that being said, let's take a look at what the spread is on this game here today. It opened with Miami as a 2-point favorite. It's down a little bit in most places here. Right now, you can get Miami minus 1.5, minus 110. You can get that on DraftKings, FanDuel, or BetMGM. That's the best price if you're looking to play the Miami Heat here. Miami Heat minus 1.5 in this game here. I did want to mention Kyle Lowry has been ruled out for this game, but it looks like at the moment, everybody else is going to be playing for the Miami Heat. Boston, you do have Marcus Smart listed as questionable here today. I would expect Marcus Smart to play, but again, the fact that he's listed as questionable, at the very least, we have to keep an eye on it to see if we get any more news throughout the day about whether or not he's going to be in, and also whether or not he's going to be 100%. He may not be out there doing the normal things that he does if he's not 100% here. So we'll have to see how that works out too. On the Boston side of this game, Boston, you could get Boston right now on Caesars. They're like plus 1.5 on a lot of sites around minus 110. You can get Boston, though, at a full +2 over on Caesars at minus 110. That is the best number in the market if you're looking to get money down on the Boston Celtics side. And I do think I would rather be on the Boston Celtics side here today, but I don't want to play the spread. If I'm going to play Boston here today, I think I'm just going to play Boston on the money line. Boston's money line right now, you can get them on Caesars best price for the money line as well. Plus 110 on the money line here for the Boston Celtics. To me, I think that's the better way to go about this. I think this game is I have this game as an absolute coin flip. If Boston was at home, I would have Boston favored by a couple points here. With this game being in Miami, I basically think it's a coin flip, which means that I think Boston's actually the better team on a neutral floor. And that's the way that I'm looking at it. And that's the way I'm going to be betting most of the games in this series. So for the first game here, my favorite play, Boston money line plus 110. I think that's the way that I want to go about doing it. So now let's talk about the total real quick here. So, again, we mentioned the 3 games that these two teams played. The first game, the final score was 173 points. The second game, it was 214 points. The third game, it was 204 points. So, you're basically looking at an average of about 200 and change, like 200.33, I think is what it would be. If you take the 3 games that these teams played and average them together. So when you see that the open was 206 and it's dropped, it's really not all that crazy. Like I said, we only went over 206 one time in the 3 times that they played, and that was at 214. So it wasn't like they went over by a lot in that game. PointsBet now has the best price available if you want to play an over here. Again, this opened at 206.5. PointsBet is offering this at 202.5 here at a minus 110 to play the over. That is a very low number. MGM has it at 203.5 for minus 110, and most of the other sites out there, most of the other books have this sitting at 204 minus 110 to the over and the under. So if you want to play an over here today, 202.5 on PointsBet is the lowest number you can find, and that's sitting there at minus 110. If you want to play the under, you can get that at a lot of sites. Under 204 at minus 110 is available on, let's see, FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, Unibet. All have this at 204 minus 110 if you're looking to play the under there. Again, the under has been where the money has been coming in. It started at 206.5. It's down at least 2 to 2.5 points right here. Some books like PointsBet have it down 4. So this is obviously a pretty big move here. Do you want to chase the steam? I mean, listen, I always think if I see a line move 3 points or so, and then I'm getting ready to be in on it, I feel like I've missed the move at that point. I feel like the move was to get in on this at 206.5 when it opened. Now that it's all the way down to 203, 204, somewhere in there, the numbers that you have to play. Oh, man, not gonna lie to you guys. I mean, the value has been sucked out of it a little bit here. Could this finish like a 98-87 kind of game? Like, yeah, it could, but 204, 203, 202. These are very low numbers. I know these are very good defensive teams here, but these are very, very low numbers. So it does give me a little bit of pause. Listen, and at least one team in every matchup between these two teams failed to score 100 points. So again, if this was 210, 212, I would say we're pounding the under. It's way under there. 204, though, that is a low number. So I am staying away from it. Like I said, I think the under is the way I would have wanted to go. But at this point, I think if you didn't bet it, you probably lost the opportunity to bet on the under here. So now let's move on and talk about some of the player props here. There are 2 on each team that I'm looking at. A couple interesting things. Some of them I would bet on the sports books. Some of them I would take advantage of over on the sleeper app here today. And I'll explain to you why when we get into them. So the first one that I want to talk about here today is going to be Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points. So in the last 3 games against the Miami Heat, he had 17 the first time they played in that 95-78 blowout. And then he had 29 and 28 in the other 2 games that they played so far this year. So 2 of the 3 games that they played, he's gone over that 23.5 number right there. He is averaging over 23.5 in the 3 times that they've met this year. And the other reason why I really like this is we're getting a really good price on the sports book on this. If you want to bet the Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points here today, you can get that at even money on DraftKings, Unibet, Sugar House, or Bet Rivers. So DraftKings, Unibet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers all have this at even money plus 100. And I think that this should have been somewhere around the minus 115 to minus 120. So I think we have at least 15 to 20 basis points here of value on where I think the fair market should be on this number. So Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points is the first one I like. I like this more on the sports books than I do on the sleeper app. And that's going to be the case anytime we can get something at like even money that we think is a good thing to go over. Again, on the sleeper, we're going to have some things later that are minus 120, minus 130, minus 140 that are more likely to happen based on, the numbers that the books and the bettors are putting onto it. Those are the things that we really want to use over there. We don't want to take chances on it over there. If we're going to take chances at something that's even money or plus 110 or plus 105, which we will at different points throughout the series, it's better for us to get over to the sports books and play them there. And that's where I'm going to be playing Jaylen Brown, DraftKings plus 100, where I put this one in here today. So let's go over and talk about one on the Miami side. On the Miami side, I really like Max Strus over 12.5 points. He only played in 2 games against Boston this year. He had 27 in the one game, 14 in the other game. So he went over the 12.5 points in both of those games. And the reason why he went over is because they left him open to fire up a bunch of threes in those games. He had 9 3-pointers in the first game, was absolutely on fire, hit 4 in the second game, is shooting 50% from downtown against the Celtics this year. Now, again, that is a big number, right? Like 50% is not something we expect the guy to shoot throughout the entire series. But the volume of the number of threes that he's been jacking up is really what I like. And I also like the fact that over 2.5 3-pointers here today for Max Strus is minus 159. That is the best price you could find, minus 159. There's some other ones that have moved it up to 3.5 already. There's some other ones that are sitting there at minus 160, which is just a massive number there. But again, if you're giving a guy like a minus 160 chance, a minus 160 payout for him to hit over 2.5 threes, you're basically saying that there's a very, very good chance, probably 60, 70% chance that this guy is going to hit at least 3 3-pointers. At least 3 3-pointers is 9 points right there. We only need to get him over 12.5 to get to 13. So I think that this is a very good play today. I like Max Strus over 12.5 points. And this is one that I would play over on the sleeper app here today. The over 12.5 points on the sports books, you can still find this at like minus 115, minus 120. So juiced up a little bit, not a ton, but I do think it's a good one to look at here. The next one I want to talk about, we'll go back to the Boston Celtics side, and that's going to be Jason Tatum over 6.5 rebounds. So he's had 25 rebounds in 3 games against Miami this year, averaging 8.3 rebounds per game against them. He was over 7 rebounds in 2 of the 3 games that they played this year. And the other thing that I really like about this, you can get Tatum over 6.5 rebounds at plus 110. FanDuel, Unibet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, all 4 of those sites have Jason Tatum over 6.5 rebounds at plus 110 today. I think that's a really good payout on something that, again, we've seen him do in 2 of the 3 games of the series. We've seen him average over the 3 games in this series. So over 6.5 rebounds for Jason Tatum. Definitely another one of those plays that I'm going to be looking to put in. Again, at plus 110, I like it a lot better on the sports books than I do over on the sleeper app. FanDuel, Unibet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, where you can find this Jason Tatum over 6.5 rebounds at that plus 110 number. And that brings us to the last one I want to talk about here today, which is going to be Jimmy Butler under 24.5 points. So here's the reason why I like the Jimmy Butler under 24.5 points. He played in 2 of the 3 games against the Boston Celtics this year. In neither one of those games did he score 25 points. Now, again, he's averaged 22 points in those games, so it's not like he was far off, but he was under that 25-point number in both of those games. This is an incredibly low total game here, so, somebody's going to have to see their production kind of drop. I think Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler are 2 guys whose scoring numbers I'm expecting to come in a little bit under for most of this series here. Those 2 guys may also be spending a lot of energy on the other end. Again, good chance that Butler is going to be guarding either, Tatum, or they may see him on Jaylen Brown at different points in this series. So it might take a little bit away from his offense if he has to work so hard on the defensive end. The other reason why I like this is that the sports books are giving me a lot of confidence that other people are looking at this and seeing it the same way. Unibet, Bet Rivers, and Sugar House have Jimmy under 24.5 points at minus 140. Caesars has it at minus 125. DraftKings has it at minus 120. FanDuel already moved it down from 24.5 to 23.5. And even at that 23.5, the under is minus 106. So a lot of the books and a lot of the bettors are on the under here at that 24.5. That 24.5 number is the number on the sleeper app. At minus 140, we're talking like a 57, 58% chance right there. The fact that they moved it to 23.5 at minus 106 means that even at 23.5, there's still like a 51% chance that this is going to come in under 23.5 points here. So there are a lot of, a lot of arrows pointing in the downward direction for Jimmy Butler scoring in this series. And that's why I really like this one on the sleeper app, under 24.5 for Jimmy Butler. So again, we only have one game here tonight. So if you're going to be playing over on the sleeper app, you're going to be playing kind of almost like a same game thing here today, like a same game contest parlay. And here's the way that I'm looking at it. I like Max Strus over 12.5 points and Jimmy Butler under 24.5 points. Those are going to be the two things that I'm going to be putting together over on the sleeper app here today. So remember, go down into the description. You'll see the tag right there. You're going to go sleeper.com/FTN bets. That will get you into our sleeper group. We'll also get you access to that 100% deposit match up to $100. And again, anytime a site is offering this, you guys know I always say, if you can afford to put in the full $100 and get the full bonus, that's really what you want to do. That is the most plus EV play. Put $100 in over on Sleeper. You have $200 to play with. You can put it on this Max Strus and Jimmy Butler, contest entry that we talked about here today. And if it wins, you wind up walking home with about $600 here tonight. That's a plus 500 from the $100 that you deposited. You're not going to find better payouts anywhere in the industry putting those two things parlayed here together tonight. So Max Strus over 12.5, Jimmy Butler under 24.5. That is going to be my sleeper play of the day. And that's going to wrap it up for us here at the FTN Betscast for Tuesday, May 17th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our good friends at Sleeper. Good luck tonight, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.